Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of Peer Chats. My name is Amanda Bruns, and I am a senior social studies teaching major, and this is my second year being a peer advisor in the Office of Academic Advising.
Yes, and my name is Brianna Carter. I am a senior majoring in chemistry with a minor in criminology. This is my second semester being a peer advisor.
And today we're going to be talking about procrastination. I think it's something that we all do and probably have experience with. Um, and so we're going to kind of start off talking about what procrastination is, why do we do it, and things like that. And so I guess for me, procrastination is kind of putting off the important things that I should be doing and postponing other things that it's like are important, but I don't want to do them right now. So we just try to put them off as long as possible.
Yeah, I think that's the same for me. Like, if I know a assignment is going to give me trouble, I'll push it off until I'm like, okay, am I ready to handle this stress right now? Okay, then I'll work on it. So I definitely agree with that.
Yes. And I think, kind of going off of what you just said, one of the main reasons why we procrastinate is we are afraid of failing, that we think that we're going to do bad at these things. And we would just rather delay that as much as possible than like having to face those emotions.
I'm gonna ask you this: when you know that you're procrastinating, what's like the first thing that you do to like stop yourself from doing it?
How do I stop myself from procrastinating? Um, I really rely heavily on like my planners and to-do lists so I can see them like everywhere. I have like three different calendars so I can see that this thing is coming up and that, oh, I need to start working on this. And that's what kind of helps me to get into it, is because I know it's coming and it's like I cannot put it off any longer.
I do the same thing. And I noticed more lately, I've been trying to get my easier assignments done first. And then I'll go back and say, okay, the ones that are going to give me trouble, let me work on these later. And even then, when I have harder assignments, I'll break them up into parts so that it's not so overwhelming, so that it doesn't give me that option to procrastinate. So if I know, like, okay, this is going to take me a long time, this is going to stress me out, let me see if I can break it down. Like, for example, I have a book report that's due all the way at the end of May, but we just got it this week. So as a smart person, I'm like, okay, let me sit down and figure out how I'm going to break this down into chunks so that I don't have to do it all at the end, aka procrastinating it until like the first week of May when it's due. So I think like now I'm picking out my book, and then next week I'm gonna sit down and say, okay, I'm gonna read these chunks this week, this chunk next week. And then when I get done with the book, like 3 weeks later, I'm gonna say, okay, what question can I answer first? And then do like each week a different question. By the time it's due, I'll be done. So that is my way of like breaking my cycle of procrastination.
I love that. I feel like I always have good intentions, but I've just gotten into the habit of procrastination seems to work for me. And since I haven't really failed or anything, there's nothing to like show me like, hey, this is bad, you need to stop. But for me, it's like the anxiety and the stress just gets to be too much sometimes, that I have gotten better at dealing with the procrastination, but it definitely, I still fall into it. And I think it's something that everyone struggles with in kind of their own way for sure. I'm trying to think what I have started to do to help me with procrastinating. I used to try to like read a whole chapter of like a textbook at one time, like they assign like 30 some pages. And I, like as a freshman or sophomore, I would sit down and I would try to read all 30 pages in the one sitting. And that is just not possible. You're not gonna, retain any of the information that you're trying to read. And in one of my classes, we learned that you can really only retain about 5 to 6 pages of information at a time. And so, kind of going off of what you said, is like you really do have to break it up, of that you can't just sit and read a whole chapter of a textbook. You kind of have to plan it out a little, do a little bit each day. And that way, like you are being productive each day. And then by the end, you're not just like, oh my goodness, I have like this whole paper to write, and oh, I have like 6 hours to do it. And then you're really feeling like the pressure is on.
You know, that's actually a good fun fact to put in there. I did not know that you only like know 5 to 6 pages after you're done reading. Like, that's intense. because now I feel like, what have I been reading? Because 5 to 6 pages. But that's
How
good.
much are you actually retaining from
Yeah,
that? You know?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool. But I want to fall back on to the point where you said using your planner and the like tasking or list. That is really, really nice to do. I actually, just like you, I do a combination of both. So when the semester starts off, I take my syllabi and I add all of the tests, all the quizzes, homework assignments that are already in there. I add them to my calendar so I know when they're due. So when I sit down to do my daily or weekly planner, I say, okay, I see this is due next week. Let me see how I can map it out this week to get some of it done in chunks so that by the time it's due next Sunday, I'm not doing it on Saturday, procrastinating into the end. And I think it's good to use the list for that as well too, because then I can break it out into chunks and say, okay, this is the listed for today. This is my assignments for today, like the chunks and bits that I want to do. So I think by far the easiest way to like avoid procrastination is just splitting things up into chunks, like overall. That would be like
definitely,
main
definitely.
recommendation to anybody that knows they struggle with procrastination. Just break it up into sections so that you're not dwelling on it, getting it all done at one time.
Yeah, and that's something that I started doing this semester as well, is there's actually a task function on the Google Calendar where you can like list out everything that you need to do. And then when you finish it, you check it and then it goes like to your completed task. So then like at the end of the semester or whatever, you can see like how much you've actually done throughout the semester. And then you kind of have this sense of like, wow, I've done a lot. And so then you kind of, you feel good about yourself, like, oh, look at all these things that I did. And it also kind of helps you keep track too of what's kind of going on in each of your classes. What's the priority that needs to happen this week? What's maybe something that could be put off to next week? And then like also like putting in like your due dates and stuff into your calendar, and then you're kind of getting the notifications. And I kind of do the same thing as you, Brianna, at the beginning of each week about Sunday or Monday. I'm looking ahead and seeing, oh, what do I have to do this week? And then I kind of look at next week too. Is there anything that I can get done this week if I have less going on? And so, like for me, I have my level 3 field experience next week. So I know I'm going to be like in a classroom for the whole week, and I'm not going to be able to like go to my classes or anything like that. So I'm already kind of looking ahead of what projects and stuff or assignments that I need to do for next week that I can do now when I'm not as busy. So that way next week I can completely focus on that field experience and I don't have to like try to juggle both, because that would just be way too overwhelming.
Would be a lot. Another thing, what I realize people procrastinate. So I know what I do this, especially when I'm in my house, like I am right now. So I'll avoid doing an assignment or doing something that I actually need to do by doing something else, aka like cleaning up. So I'll be sitting here doing my homework assignment. I'm like, oh wait, I didn't do this. So let me go do the dishes. And I'm like, okay, now I go do the dishes, but I'm wasting my time. Like I'm actually being productive because I'm doing the dishes, but that's not what I actually need to be doing. So if I once I realize that's what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, hit the brakes, back up. Let's go back to the homework assignment and do that. And then when you're done with your homework assignment, if you still feel the need to do the dishes, you can do so. So I know a lot of people do that as well, where they're like, okay, let me do something else so I feel productive, but that's not what I'm trying to get done right now. So
I'm guilty of the same thing. There's actually a term for it called self handicapping. And so when you have a really important task or project that you need to do, you come up with this list of all these other things that you need to do instead. So like you said, doing the dishes, cleaning your apartment, vacuuming, maybe it's taking out the trash or the recycling. And so then when you do complete your task, if you do happen to fail, the fault is not on you. It's on, oh, I had all these other things that I did instead. So it's not actually my fault that I didn't do well. So like that's really the heart of procrastination, is you don't want to take the blame for your failure. You want to put it on all of these other things. Oh, I didn't have enough time to work on it. Oh, I did all of these other things instead. It's not my fault, but we have to realize that we are the ones that are in control of our procrastination, and that it is our fault if we end up procrastinating and not doing as well if we had taken the time and really, planned it out starting sooner rather than later. And yeah.
I realize like a good thing that I like to say to myself when I do procrastinate, and I don't do well on assignments. So like say I do wait until the last minute to do an assignment, I turn it in, I know I didn't do well. Instead of me dwelling on the fact that I didn't do well, I tell myself, okay, you realize and you recognize that you did procrastinate and it didn't do well. So what are you going to do next time to make sure that doesn't happen? How are you going to avoid procrastination? So, and just changing your mindset about the procrastination and how you struggle with it can also, get rid of your procrastination problems. So
I love that kind of reflecting and see how can I do better next time.
yeah.
I think a lot of people definitely need to kind of shift their perceptions to that. And I know I'm probably guilty of the same thing of I don't really reflect back on it of how can I do better the next time. And
It works well. Because then I feel like I'm like telling myself you're in trouble because you procrastinated, you're in trouble now, so don't do it again. So yeah.
um I guess I have a question. Can you think of like one of like the worst times that you procrastinated and kind of like your feelings with it and maybe like the outcome of that?
I definitely think that would have been yesterday. So this is great. So what had happened was um my birthday was over the weekend, right? So I knew that there was going to be no homework assignments done over the weekend. And I had, because I'm a chemistry student, I have to do research. And so I have to do research over the summer. So I'm really interested in going out of the state of Iowa to do research. So I was going to do an application for University of um, North Carolina, Charlotte, to do research over there. The application was due yesterday. So I told myself, Brianna, you have to get it done before the weekend. You're not gonna get it done over the weekend. You're not gonna have time to do it on the Monday that it's due. Please do it beforehand. Okay. Well, the days kept trickling on, trickling on, trickling on. And next thing I know, it's Monday the 15th, the application's due and it's not done. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like you have to be right now. So because I was like the one place that I really wanted to go. So now with that being said, today is Tuesday and I'm just like so sad because I was like the one thing that I wanted to do. So never again at this point, that broke my heart to the point where I know I'm not going to procrastinate any applications again ever. Like I'm going to have them done way beforehand and actually stick to my tasking like I told myself to. So yeah, that would probably thus far be the worst one that I've procrastinated.
I think that like procrastination can sometimes serve as like a lesson or like a learning opportunity. So kind of like that. Now you've learned, don't put off filling out your applications because you might miss out on a really great opportunity. I would say my worst example of procrastination was a paper that I had to write last semester. And I started writing it the day that it was due. Due today means due today, but not actually, don't do that. Um, and I started writing it, and I had like a solid, 2, 3 pages. It was like a 5-page paper. And I was like, oh, I can definitely, knock this out tonight and be done with it. But I'd been having some computer issues and my hard drive decided to just completely quit working. And I only had that one copy of my paper on my computer. So that meant that it was just gone forever. And I was like, it's like 6 o'clock at night, it's due at midnight. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So I I emailed the professor and I explained the situation and stuff. And I'm like in the library, I'm like trying to like cram out like this, 5-page paper. Finally, the professor emails me and he was like, I've been having technical difficulties this semester. Like, I understand. And he did give me a slight extension on the paper. However, I did end up still getting a deduction on the paper for being so late. But I was like, it's completely my fault. Like, I knew my computer was having some issues. It's my fault that I didn't put it on a Google Doc and that I started on the last minute. And I was like, I completely deserve those points to be deducted because it is completely my fault. And I could have done a lot of things to have avoided that from happening.
Right. At least you have that accountability part because you literally just reflected a lot of accountability. So that's good. So yes. And I'm glad that you were still able to turn it in because that's horrible. Like I really would have cried. Like, oh my, I would have had
Oh, I did. And then when I got his email, I was just kind of like, huh, and relieved. And I was like, I can't write that paper again because it was like a solid, 3 pages. It was good. It was good writing. And I was like, I am not in the mental state to like write this paper tonight. And I just kind of took the rest of the night off. And I was like, okay, we will start this again tomorrow. And it was like having to like come back to like, okay, what had I written about? What were my ideas? And my second paper was not the same as the first one, but you know.
It was close enough and it was good. I really liked what you said earlier. I don't know if you meant to say this, but I think this is like a good a good hashtag or like a saying. You said do today, not do today. That was good. So that
Yep.
was the title. I think that should be the title of this. So for those that watch this, we have now figured out that hashtag do today, not do today.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
All right. Well, I think that is all I have, unless there's anything else that you would like to talk about.
Girl, I'm about to write that everywhere on my walls. Do today, not do today. Okay,
I
that's
love
real.
that. Definitely
That's a
use
good.
that as like your mantra for the semester and
Literally.
learn from our faults of our stories that we have shared, that you do not want to fall into this terrible cycle of procrastination, because it is hard to break out. And obviously, if you are struggling with procrastination, you can definitely utilize our office. We're here to help. We have tips on ways to avoid the cycle. Obviously, we're not perfect and we still procrastinate, but we've kind of, I think Brianna and I both have had ways that we've kind of overcome some of our difficulties with it. We're obviously still improving,
Yeah,
but if you ever want to talk about procrastination or need any tips or tricks, definitely utilize our office. That's what we're here for.
absolutely. I love talking about time management. So, and that goes great with procrastination. So, I'm all ears for that.
Definitely. Those guys kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining our peer chat today, and we'll see you next time.